Hello, happy Thursday. Welcome to Make It Alexandria with Alyssa Kovach of Alexandria Makers Market. We have another awesome show for you tonight featuring, you probably know him, you probably know his business, and if you do, you definitely love his product. Tonight's guest is Bill from Port City Brewery. Now, Old Town just had their annual pub crawl, and if you were out and about, you might have seen the Port City team around. And tonight, we're going to meet the guy behind that team. So let us wait no longer and bring on Alyssa.
Hello, happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to Make It Alexandria. And this is my opportunity to show off all the amazing local makers that are based right here in Alexandria. And as Grace mentioned, of course, you probably are familiar with Port City Brewery. And Bill, the mastermind behind everything, has been around for about 10 years with this business, but he is one of the ultimate makers here in Alexandria. So we're so pleased to have him join us here tonight. Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Alyssa. Glad to be here with you.
Yes, thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to cheers. I'm drinking my favorite brew, which is probably one of your classics, but one of my all-time favorite beers, hands down. So welcome,
Great.
welcome.
Thank you.
I'm sure that most people are familiar with Port City Brewery in some capacity, whether they've been to the tasting room or picked up a six-pack around town. But for those people that may just not know a little bit more about the history, take us back to 10 years ago and how things got started for you.
Yeah, well, we got started. The idea came around in about probably 2008, and I had left my job in the wine business to take a sabbatical. Our kids were young at home, and my wife, her job is she had a lot of responsibilities and worked long hours at her job. And so something had to give, and we decided that I would take a couple of years off and look after the kids and support her in her career. And it gave me a chance to step back and take a look around and see what was next, because I knew I wanted to do something. And coming from the wine business, I knew that the DC area didn't need another wine importer. The DC area didn't need another wine distributor. We've got that covered pretty well. But I've long been a fan of craft beer, and I didn't understand why there wasn't a local brewery in Metro DC. It didn't make sense to me. My wife and I, for years, we like to buy local produce. We like to buy our meat from local farmers, and all of the beer we were buying was coming from the West Coast. And so that was just something that seemed contradictory. And so we wanted to look into why there weren't more local options. And we really couldn't find a good reason why that was the case, that Metro DC was the only major metro area in the country that didn't have a local craft packaging brewery. And so we thought that if we could do something of super high quality, that people would give us a chance. And the more we looked into it, we found that we thought that people would support a local craft brewery if it was of sufficient quality. So the idea was not just to start brewing beer and to be the best local brewery, but the idea was to brew beer of world-class quality that the people of DC would be proud of, and that people would embrace. This is a very sophisticated food and drink market, and people are from all over the world, and they're used to getting great quality, and people have very high standards. And so that's really where the idea came from, to start the local brewery.
Well, that seems like such a massive undertaking when you think about how high those standards and goals were that you set for yourself. And so I'm just sitting here in awe of the gumption that it probably took to to sign some of those deeds and to really get the ground rolling with the production. And I'm wondering how one does pivot in such a way. You didn't come from a beer background, but you launched with just such a successful product right off the start. And so what kind of research went into that for you?
A lot of research went into it. We traveled around the country. We went to Boston and looked at breweries in the Northeast. We traveled around Maryland and Pennsylvania and explored some breweries in that area. And Karen and I also went out to Denver to the Great American Beer Festival in 2009, where we could really take in a look and get a snapshot of what craft beer looked like all across the country. And what we found was that the Pacific Northwest had a great brewing scene. Southern California had a great brewing scene. Obviously, Colorado and the Rocky Mountain states have, great craft beer culture. And then when we got to the Mid-Atlantic section of the Great American Beer Festival, we tried a lot of those beers, and we just figured that there was room if we could do something of sufficient quality. So that's really what convinced us that we could do something if the quality was there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you are an Alexandria local. Is that correct?
I am, yeah. I grew up here. My family's been in Alexandria. Actually, my family's been in Delray since 1908. My great grandfather built a house on Delray Avenue. My mother grew up in that house on East Delray Avenue, and I've lived here pretty much all my life.
Was there ever a thought as you were looking at all your options of maybe trying elsewhere, or did you always know, no, I'm staying here, right here in this city?
Well, yeah, I thought that Alexandria, it made sense because of my family history here. It made sense for personal reasons to have the business located here, but also the fact that we are so close to DC. We're inside the Beltway, and to be able to speak directly to the DC beer community, the greater kind of the DMV beer community, that was the goal. And I knew that by locating the brewery in Alexandria, we were close enough, and really in the central, in the main part inside the Beltway really is where we wanted to be. So that was the thinking of it, of taking more of a regional approach to the market.
And so you open your doors. What I think you started with Optimal Wit, if I understand
Yes.
correctly. Did you have any other lines happening at that time?
Yeah, well, we started with a portfolio of 4 beers. And we still make all 4 of those beers, but Optimal Wit, Essential Pale Ale, Monumental IPA, and Porter. And to this day, that's still the heart of the portfolio. And really, that came about. The way we got to those 4 beers was in my wine background. If you look at a typical California winery, they'll make a Sauvignon Blanc. They'll make on the light and crisp end of the spectrum, there'll be like a Sauvignon Blanc, and on the other end of the spectrum, there'd be dark and full-bodied wines like Cabernet Sauvignon or Syrah, and then a couple stops along the way, Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, and so you've got this spectrum of flavors, and we wanted to recreate that same idea with our flagship portfolio for our craft beers. So Optimal Wit became the light and crisp option on one end of the spectrum, our robust porter on the dark and heavy end of the spectrum, and then a couple stops in between with our essential pale ale and our monumental IPA. So that was the basis of what we wanted to do, to have a range of flavors depending on what people wanted. If they what style they like, to have something that everybody would enjoy.
And how long did it take to be in production before you were ready to actually open and welcome to the public?
The whole process took about 2 years to get from, and really a big part of that was looking for a location. Alexandria and the DC area, the greater DC area, doesn't have a lot of industrial real estate, and that's really where we wanted to be, because a brewery, we need to be able to get big trucks in and out, delivering supplies, ingredients, and shipping beer out. So we needed to be in an industrial area. And so that really took a long time to find the right location. So the whole process took about 2 years. There was also a substantial process of interviewing for a brewmaster. I'm not a brewer, so I needed somebody with the expertise who could have the same goals as me, that had a quality mindset, someone that had done a startup before, and someone that had gotten recognition for the quality of their beer. So that's really putting the right pieces in place took about 2 years. It also, if you look back, this was in 2008, 2009. This was during the credit crisis. And so it was not a good time to be writing a business plan, looking and trying to go to a bank and borrow a couple $1 million to buy a bunch of stainless steel tanks and machines to make beer. So putting the financing together was a big part of it, and that was a very difficult process.
I can only imagine. And my businesses are much smaller scale, and so I like I really do appreciate when I say gumption. I think there's no better word because that just takes a lot of confidence to say we're going to go for it. And between you and your wife, there was just a lot of gumption there. So it's incredible.
Well, we were focused on, we kept our eyes on the prize and we stayed focused on the goals. And to this day, I mean, we still stay focused on the same thing of constantly trying to improve our quality, trying to find ways to get better, longer shelf life for the beer, to get more stable beer. So if we're shipping it uh, across the country, or if we're shipping it to Europe, that when it arrives at its destination, that it tastes the same there as it does here at the brewery when it left us. So to this day, as we continue to invest in capacity, at the same time, we also invest in our quality control and our quality assurance. So as we buy more tanks and more equipment, we're also buying more lab equipment and increasing our QC abilities of making sure that we can continue to increase the quality.
Well, I think that's really paid off in dividends throughout the years. Just that your commitment to quality, I think everybody, that's one of the first descriptors everybody would use when they think about Port City beer in general. And so I'm wondering then, you had your four flagship brews, you've located, where you are at the moment. And at what point in the process, maybe a year later, 2 years later, at what point in the business, after you opened your doors, did you feel like, okay, the wheels are turning and this is heading in the direction I anticipated?
I think we're constantly, and I think any business owner is constantly challenging themselves and asking those questions. Are we doing the right thing? Are we going in the right direction? What do I need to do to make sure that a year from now we're still profitable, that we're still in business, that we're still able to hire good people and offer good benefits and make make this place a place that people want to work and that people are happy working here. Um, so I think it's a constant challenge, and we're constantly asking ourselves those questions. But to answer your question, I think in 2015, when we went to the Great American Beer Festival in Denver, and we won 3 medals for the 4 beers that we entered, um, and then we were named the Small Brewing Company of the Year at this national competition. That was kind of a really just a validation of what we were doing and that we were on the right track and that our quality was where we wanted it to be and that we really had a place at the table. It really put us on the map as far as quality goes, not just in the DC region, but nationally. So that's when I feel like we really had our quality locked in and we've been able to keep things going.
That must have been such a special moment. You were 4 years from opening and maybe 7 to 8 years from when you had visited, kind of as a research trip. And did you ever imagine? I can't picture the emotions of just reflecting on those previous years of we went on a research trip and now here we are, and not only here we are, but we are winning everything.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was a great moment, and the best part of it really was the fact that we had 12 of us from the brewery at the competition that we could all share in the moment, and it was a great day for all of us. And really, the best part of it for me was to be able to share it with our team and have everybody together up on stage receiving the award. It was quite an honor.
Well, I know that Grace has a few pictures of this team, of the hard people or the hardworking people that work behind the scenes, possibly, or even pouring the brews for us occasionally. Grace, if you don't mind flashing those for us. This is a great time to probably stop and check out all those people that make this happen.
Yeah, that's our production team, our packaging team. It looks like they're taking a break, and it actually looks like that might be before the packaging run started because I think they're drinking coffee instead of beer. And this is our pub crawl team. This is a mix of there's brewers here, there's tasting room, beer guides. I see our shipping team in there, our sales team. It's really pretty much every part of the brewery is represented. This is in Old Town at the foot of King Street. You can see the river a little bit in the background, but that was at our pub crawl in 2019, and that's an event that we do every year. We normally do it on the second Saturday in July. So it normally it coincides with the Alexandria City birthday celebration and the fireworks show at the end of it. So we go to our top restaurant and bar accounts, and each of those places is a stop on the tour on the pub crawl. And we get this year we had I should say in 2019 that year we had 1,800 people come down for the pub crawl, and it was our biggest event that we've ever hosted. And everybody had a good time, and all of the restaurants and bars that participated, they also had a big day. It was just a big party and a lot of fun. So it was a good event. And that's Andrew. He's a newer beer guide. He started with us a few months ago, and he's completed his training. He has gone through all the beer training. He, like all of our beer guides, is a certified Cicerone beer server, which means that he had to take a rigorous test about quality and draft beer service and draft beer keg maintenance before he could start pouring beer here. And every single one of our beer guides is a certified beer server through the Cicerone program.
It looks like a really great team and maybe even borderline family that makes all of this happen behind the scenes.
We do have a
Um,
very close knit group, and one of the ways that we've done that, from the beginning, Karen and I wanted to make our brewery a place that people were beating down the doors to come work with us. And the way we tried to do that was by fostering really a family attitude and offering good benefits and good pay, and just trying to find ways to take care of people. And I know a lot of businesses are struggling to find people right now, and we're very fortunate that we've been able to staff up and find great quality people that know their stuff and that are dedicated to quality at the highest level, and customer service at the highest level as well.
they, I think that again, your commitment to quality, it just radiates through all the areas of the business. But I think you also have hit a really good note where that not only are you attempting to be a team building atmosphere, but you're really a community place where people can come, neighbors and people throughout the city. And it's just a very welcome atmosphere. Everyone is accepted, and not only that, but there's a lot of partnerships that are happening between the restaurants and between other small
Mm-hmm.
businesses like myself, which we'll hit upon in a moment. But um,
Yep.
That really has been impactful for me very personally in personal ways. But I think that's one of my most favorite aspects of Port City Brewery is just this community that can develop
Yeah,
around that.
well, it takes I mean, beer is a social beverage at its most basic. It's something that's best enjoyed with others, and it's best enjoyed in a crowd, and it's best to drink beer and share stories and share experiences, and that's what we try to do both here at the brewery and also in supporting our restaurant and bar customers all up and down the East Coast. We like to do events with them. We like to drive business to them. And by doing events in the bars and by sending our people out to educate their servers also helps them be more confident selling beer, and it helps them share craft beer in a better way. So really, that's what it's all about. And also, I've always looked at craft beer as kind of a tiny luxury. It's something that it's a little bit elevated. It elevates your day, makes life better. And in a sense, if you're selling something that is a small luxury, then it's on us. It's our responsibility to make sure that there's some left over to give back to the community when it's all said and done. And if we can't do that, my wife and I made this commitment at the beginning that if we can't do that, if we can't give back to the community, then that's not a good business. And so we've tried to make sure that there is a little bit something left over that we can kick back to the community at the end of the day.
That's incredible. You were telling me prior to going live about your partnership with Gatsby's Tavern and the upcoming release that you have of Long Black Veil. I think this is one of the examples. It's a perfect example. If you want to share with everyone watching a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, if you think about, Alexandria is, we've got such a great history here, and there's a lot of quirky, funny stories about things that have happened over the years. And our Long Black Veil it's a black IPA that we release near Halloween every year because it's connected to a spooky story. It's the tale, the legend of the female stranger. And a lot of people have heard this story, but just to tell it quickly, there was a very ill woman that got off a boat in the port of Alexandria and was with a gentleman who was trying to get her some help because she was very ill. And he took her off the ship and had a black veil covering her face so nobody could see her identity. And they took her to Gatsby's Tavern, and she stayed there in room number 8 for several weeks. And nobody was allowed to see her, and nobody was allowed to know her identity. And even the doctors and attendants were sworn to secrecy. And so she died on October 14th, and she's buried in the St. Paul's Cemetery over in Old Town, over by Whole Foods. And so there's this weird inscription on the grave that talks about the female stranger who's buried in this grave that to this day, nobody knows her identity. So we thought that it was kind of a weird story and kind of fun to make a beer about that. So every year when we release the beer, we partner with Gatsby's Tavern and we do an event and try to raise some money for the museum. Well, the museum is still closed because of COVID, so we're going to have the event at the brewery this year, and it will be held on the anniversary of her death on October 14th. So we'll have our Sugi Long Black Veil IPA that we'll release in partnership with Gatsby's Tavern. And there should be, I believe there will be a special guest at the release event at the brewery on that day.
Oh, that's exciting. That's exciting. I know you have some other events that are on the books, and I think kind of a big one this weekend upcoming. Would you want to share more about that?
This weekend is our Oktoberfest. So we released the beer a few weeks ago, but we're going to have our big outdoor Oktoberfest party. There'll be games. There'll be a Stein hoisting contest. There'll be a costume contest. And this normally is one of our biggest events of the year. Also, we're scaling it back like everything else, just to make sure that we don't get too many people in one place and make people uncomfortable. But it will be outdoors, and it should be a lot of fun. So that'll be Saturday with events going on all day. The weather, I believe the weather's supposed to be beautiful this weekend.
Well, it is such a fine balance, and I certainly appreciate that. I think you guys were pretty quick to shut things down when everything shut down, and were true leaders in keeping your doors closed when it was appropriate to do so. But now that people are vaccinated and we can kind of start to socialize, I think it's actually really great for the community to come together, and you are the perfect host. We really appreciate that space. I will mention if somebody didn't make it to our event, the Alexandria Makers Market event last weekend, we had a wonderful time. It was a beautiful day. And I think I clocked in around about 1,800 to 2,000 people, which felt like a smaller crowd than compared to 2019 when Bill and I stood shoulder to shoulder in the tasting room. and it was almost twice the amount of people at that point. But um, I just appreciate. I don't think you realize like that was really the launch for Alexandria Makers Market of trying to be an umbrella where these smaller makers can come together at a bigger event because there's kind of strength in numbers for people my size,
Absolutely.
you know, in terms of
Yeah.
their business. And so I really appreciate the fact that you just welcomed all of us in, and truly we took over for the day,
Yeah.
and that we've been able to come back. And for those of you who are marking your calendars at home, we are going to come back in November for a holiday market. It's Hometown Holidays, our third annual. Last year was virtual, but Port City again allowed some pickups at the brewery, which again, just always so gracious, and we appreciate that. But so Oktoberfest, Long Black Veil
Yep.
release. Am I
Yep.
missing early November?
Well, we have we'll release our holiday beer, Tidings.
Oh, great.
And we'll do that on October 29th at the end of October so that we can get it out into the market and on the shelves in time for the Thanksgiving holiday. That's our goal, is to make sure that it's out in the market and people can have it at their Thanksgiving holiday feast. I think the flavor of that beer lends itself so well with the flavors that you find on a Thanksgiving table. So that's why we release it in time for the November holiday. And then that weekend is the Alexandria Makers Market. It's the event that we're doing with you, and that also is Small Business Saturday. So
That's
it's
right.
a perfectly appropriate day to be having that event at the brewery on November 27th. So it's a big day for us, and we're certainly looking forward to welcoming you and everyone else back at the end of November.
I appreciate that so much. And I will give a plug for the Tidings as well, because it is my favorite and I stock up so I can enjoy it throughout the year. And I'm not one of those people that listens to Christmas music all year round, but I will drink a Christmas beer, you know, at certain points in the summer. And you were telling me that it uses a similar yeast to the
Yeah,
Optimal Wit, which now that you say that,
it's the same yeast as our Optimal Wit. It's a Belgian strain of yeast. It's called West Molly #7, and it comes from the West Molly Brewery in Belgium. So it's a true Belgian strain of yeast, and that's why you get that real floral ester in the beer, and it just gives it complexity and layers of flavor. And what I love about that beer is that the flavors evolve in the glass, and it really just as the aroma evolves, it just invites you back into the glass for another sip.
it's incredible. It really is. And those are definitely my favorites because I prefer a Belgian style. But they're so good. We are kind of coming to the end, but I wanted to just get a reflection on you. You know, if you look back 10 years ago, are you where you thought you would be, or have you exceeded some of the goals that you set for yourself?
Well, it's a constant process, and it's especially coming through as COVID drags on. It's a lot of our goals and a lot of small business goals have been kind of tossed out the window, and it's a lot of businesses had to switch to survival mode, and we're no different. As our restaurant customers go, so we go. As Alexandria goes, so we go. As DC goes, that's how we go. We can't survive without the support of our restaurants and bars. And that's been a part of the business that we haven't had for the past year and a half. It's starting to come back little by little, which is great. But yeah, we're proud of where we are today. We're proud of the quality that we're able to produce. We're proud of the consistency, and I'm certainly proud of our team and all that they've been able to achieve over these past 10 years to get us where we are today.
Well, I'm so excited for you, and I know that you have been winning awards. You were just back in Denver for the Great American Beer Fest and brought home that gold. I mean, yes, please. Let's. Oh
Yeah,
my
well, this
goodness.
is our gold medal. This was the second gold medal that Optimal Wit has won, and the Great American Beer Festival is the biggest national beer competition that there is. There were 9,000 beers in the competition this year, vying for less than 300 medals. So less than 3% of the beers in the competition brought home a medal. So again, my hat's off to the team for being dedicated to quality and being able to put out a consistently great product.
Well, no, cheers. Yes, I echo that. Cheers to you and the whole team. I am hoping that we do maybe a reunion interview 10 years from now. And, we can kind of reflect over post-pandemic living and all the success that will bring for you.
Sounds great.
So. Bill, thank you so much. Everybody, I hope that you will go and mark your calendar for these upcoming events. So many fun things are happening down at Port City. And Bill, would you direct them to social media or your website, or where should they find information about how to get a...
All of our events are on our website. It's portcitybrewing.com. We're on Instagram at Port City Brew, Twitter at Port City Brew, and we're easy to find on Facebook as well.
That's perfect. That's perfect. Well, Bill, I will sign off with you, but thank you again for your time, and a huge thank you on behalf of many makers for your hospitality and for just allowing us to partner, and I really appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Alyssa. I've enjoyed being with you, and we'll see you soon.
All right. That sounds great. Thanks, Bill. You guys, it's almost the weekend. Everybody should go. It's going to be beautiful beautiful weather. Go get a 6-pack if you can't get down to the tasting room in person. And just cheers to the amazing hard work of just this local, community building business that we have right here in our city. They're so incredible. And it's just the perfect way to go and support local and support Alexandria. And guys, go be the good news in somebody's life.